Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. It's time. It's time for me to play the most Nintendo game ever made that I have never played. I never tried it. It's sat on my shelf for far too long, and for years I have asked myself, can I really be considered a true Nintendo fanboy without this game on my belt? But what is this title? Could it be Super Smash Brothers, one of the Super Smash Brothers, or Mario Kart entries? Perhaps one of the plethora of Mario sports titles featuring various Nintendo characters, maps, and themes. No, of course not. Because none of these can live up to the true alpha, the cream of the crop, the king that is.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Ah yes, Nintendo Land, the pack-in title for the Wii U, meant to show everyone what the system could do. Essentially, Nintendo Land is to the Wii U what Wii Sports was to the Wii. It's comprised of 12 minigames, each based off of various Nintendo IP, and feature different uses of the Wii U gamepad. But this is a pack-in title, so how can it be that I've never experienced this? Well, I actually purchased the Legend of Zelda edition of the Wii U, which came with the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker as my pack-in title. You could say I made the right choice. So the next question we have to answer is, why now? Why am I playing Nintendo Land for the first time here in 2023? Well, rumor has it, or should I say legend has it, there's a really solid Metroid experience hidden deep within Nintendo Land. And truth be told, that's the main reason I've been interested in this game, and frankly, if I discover some other fantastic minigames along the way, that's just icing on the cake. But before we go any further, I would just like to note that as of the recording of this video, we are at 169 subscribers. Guys, that's like a 31 sub jump since the last upload. Don't get me wrong, I fully understand we are still a very small channel here on the Loonatunes Network, but we're rolling in the right direction. I am sensing some tangible growth right now. So if you'd like to be in on that action, then please do consider subscribing. So before we jump into any gameplay, I actually want to pull a segment from Matty Plays over on Retro Rebound. I'm a pretty big fan of his. I like to watch his content. It's really great stuff. And essentially what he does when he's reviewing some retro games is he likes to do a complete in-box experience. And I've never done this before on the channel, so I hope I do it some justice. And if you enjoy this, let me know down in the comment section, and I'll be sure to do it again when the opportunity presents itself. But let's go ahead and look at the box art, and we'll also flip through the manual a little bit. All right, hopefully everything looks and sounds okay. I kind of set this up a little bit hastily to put my camera and microphone in some wonky positions, but without further ado, let's get it. Nintendo Land for the Wii U. I hate this box art. I do not like what's going on here. You got a bunch of Miis running around. It just looks like pure chaos. It's very messy. There's just a lot going on. And I don't know why it's a bit off-putting to me that you have the actual real life gamepad, like the hardware, as well as a TV and even a Wii sensor bar on top of the TV on the cover art of this video game. I don't know why. This just looks cheap. This looks cheap. It looks like a AA kind of side project type of thing, which yeah, I guess it kind of is, but this does not scream high quality AAA release. You got this really gaudy, like loud yellow title, Nintendo Land, like please read me, please pay attention to me. I'm not a fan of this. I'm really not a fan of this. Now, what I think a better layout would have been is if they did something akin to the Super Smash Bros. Series of games. They pretty much always do this with their cover art, have all the Nintendo characters featured on the front. It's much more symmetrical, much more organized. Imagine something like this, but instead of each of these iconic Nintendo characters, it's a bunch of Miis wearing outfits to look like these iconic characters. I think at that point you still kind of get the point across as to what this game is meant to be, but it would look a little bit higher quality than this. I mean, God, this is just awful. Especially like look at this abyss of a background. It's just a blank white background as far as the eye can see. It's a bit abysmal. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the back of the case, see what it has to say. Explore new ways to play with the Wii U gamepad. visit a theme park based on Nintendo's greatest worlds. And yeah, that pretty much summarizes what this game is meant to be. It's meant to show off the functionality of the Wii U. What can you do with the Wii U gamepad? It also shows off that you can use Wiimotes from the last generation system, the Wii, for this game. So those controllers still have functionality. I think that is really great. Nintendo does backwards compatibility really, really well. The Wii U can, of course, backwards compat to Wii and still use all the controllers and whatnot as well. Now, if we kind of zoom and enhance here, you can see we have Team Up, Battle It Out, and Go Solo. So these are the different types of games we can expect in this collection. Cooperative multiplayer, competitive multiplayer, and then just straight up solo games. But all right, let's crack this open and see what we've got inside. The disc, you know, this is not specific to Nintendo Land, but I really love how the Wii U had these beveled edges on all of their game discs. I'm not really sure why they did it, what the purpose of it is, but they always feel really high quality. I love it so much. But yeah, we get to see, you know, Mario, Samus, what is that? Luigi, Zelda. Oh my God, that's not Zelda. That's Link. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Just take my Nintendo badge away right now. Okay, let's go ahead and pop out the manual. Still got that hideous Nintendo Land box art on the front cover of the manual. You love to see it. First page, just some, you know, normal safety stuff. Welcome to Nintendo Land Visitor's Guide. So this is kind of fun. They almost, at least on this page here, want to theme it after a theme park like map. You know, have you ever gone to Fiesta, Texas, or a Schlitterbahn or a SeaWorld, and you know the front gate hands you a pamphlet of like, all right, here's where you can go, here's what you can do in our park. That's kind of what they're going for here, and I do appreciate that. They talk about the central tower, the different games, the attraction gates, how you access the games. It talks about the tour train, different prizes and meet characters that you might find hidden throughout. Flip the page, and we have each of the 12 mini games, once again broken up into categories: team attractions, competitive, and your solo attractions. But we'll get to more specific details on these as we continue along. And it looks like there's some more pages here, but it is not meant to be. These are all just different languages. So that's pretty much it for the manual. A little fun Pikmin art on the back. And lastly, we can just take a look at the advertisement inside of the box. We've got ads for Sing Party, New Super Mario Bros. U. That would have a much longer lifespan than any of us expected, as well as Lego City Undercover. Open it up. Got some little blurbs about each of these games. On the back, some more info on Super Mario Bros. U. So that's a complete inbox. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, this is my first time ever doing this. I have a very shoddy setup right now. If you guys enjoyed this and want to see more of it, let me know in the comment section, and I'll be sure to put together a better setup next time. All right, it's time to get into some gameplay, and Nintendo Land wastes no time getting us straight into the action. There's no title card, no main menu, no settings to tweak, just blam, tutorial mode. Here we're introduced to the theme park that is Nintendo Land and our tour guide, Monita. She explains the ins and outs of the park and the general controls. As you can tell, the game is eager to get you using the gamepad motion controls, and it's a little off-putting the way the screen moves beyond its borders. And as far as the park itself is concerned, it is eerily vacant. Just you and Monita in this large open space. The happy carnival music coupled with the barren Nintendo hellscape was unintentionally off-putting. But now that we've gotten oriented, let's have a look at the minigame offerings we have waiting for us. Starting off will be Donkey Kong's Crash Course, Mario Chase, Takamura's Ninja Castle, Luigi's Ghost Mansion, Captain Falcon's Twister Race, Animal Crossing Sweet Day, Balloon Trip Breeze, The Legend of Zelda Battle Quest, Yoshi's Fruit Cart, Pikmin Adventure, Octopus Dance, and last but not least, Metroid Blast. I guess we'll have to find out if this one truly lives up to the hype. But alright, we've got a lot to get into. You'll essentially be getting 12 mini reviews over the course of this video. I hope you enjoy, Let's get it. Starting off with Donkey Kong's Crash Course, so I hoped to start this video off with a bang. Unfortunately, we don't quite hit the mark here. It's a fairly simple concept: tilt the gamepad left and right to move the little car thing. It'll occasionally ask you to utilize the shoulder buttons, thumbsticks, and even blow into the Wii U microphone to trigger some platforms, which is fairly unique, but also kinda gross. The music has a nice retro flair with a mix of the original Donkey Kong theme and Cranky Kong's theme from Donkey Kong Country. The overall level design is kinda cute, meant to emulate a real-world handheld toy rather than a video game, but main idea is to get as far as you can without destroying your vehicle. Where the problems arise is that what results in a lost seemed pretty inconsistent. Sometimes I'm flying at warp speed and slam into a wall with no repercussions, and other times I'm cruising along, my wheel gets hung up, and I explode. Trying to discern how much the tilt affected my car when I'm going up and down hills and diagonal platforms never felt all that accurate or consistent. I'm sure I would have improved had I dedicated several hours of repetition, but to motivate me to do that, the base game has to be enjoyable in the first place, and Donkey Kong's Crash Course was just not meshing with me. On top of that, tilt controls were already available on the previous console generation, so this is hardly something to be deemed as unique to the Wii U's gamepad. Ultimately, Donkey Kong's Crash Course just wasn't that fun, and the gimmick of tilting the Wii U gamepad was nothing to gawk at even back then.
Okay.
Next, we have Mario Chase, which is the first of the mini-games that requires a minimum of 2 players to enjoy. Nintendo Land doesn't feature online play, so if you're an only child with no friends and your parents don't love you, you're going to be in very bad shape here. Lucky for me, I have a wife who is bound by marriage to occasionally play video games with me. And something to note with all of these multiplayer games, Player 1 gets to use the Wii U gamepad both as a controller and primary screen for gameplay, while Player 2 uses a Wiimote and utilizes the TV. Which means that when recording footage for this video, I was only able to capture Player 2's gameplay. I hope you enjoy. But back to Mario Chase. Holy crap, we had a fantastic time. The concept here is really very simple. One player is Mario, the other is Toad. Toad has a couple of minutes to chase after and catch Mario, along with the help of 2 AI-controlled teammates. And I love these little Yoshi bots, because when they get a hold of Mario, they just knock the piss out of him. There are multiple stages that offer a bit of variety, like mud that will slow the player down, or slides that can be used for quick escapes. And just like any great game of tag, it's the tension when you turn the corner only to see your opponent right there about to tackle you, or the uncontrollable screams when you narrowly escape a hectic situation. And as an added bonus, Riley could not stop laughing at the mere sight of me running around in my shoddy Mario costume. And her laugh made me laugh, and my laugh made her laugh. It was just a great time all around. And this is a game that I think would be fantastic to play with a younger family member as well. You could chase them around, act like you're gonna catch them, only to let them escape and ultimately win. Or you could take the opposite approach and score some easy W's to stroke your ego. Regardless, Mario Chase managed to scratch that casual multiplayer itch that we were looking for. Next up, we have Takamura's Ninja Castle, and this is essentially a light gun shooter based off the Famicom title, The Mysterious Murasame Castle. And this game kicks balls, which is a compliment. That's a good thing. Not sure why I went there. So Takamura has you turn the gamepad into a vertical position and use your finger or stylus to throw shuriken at enemies that pop up on the screen. The actual sensor was quite accurate and responsive. The colors, papier-mâché art direction, and sounds were so fun and engaging, and the interactivity with the gamepad was right up my alley. I legitimately played this over and over again, not just to obtain more footage, but just because I was having a great time. And the more you play, the more tools you unlock as well. Once obtained, the game allows you to quickly draw shapes on the gamepad to switch weapons or activate abilities. You can swap to bombs to destroy enemy barricades, slow down time for short periods, or activate triple shuriken to quickly dispose of large groups of ninja. The gamepad usage here was much more unique and interesting than Donkey Kong's Crash Course, And this was obviously something that could not be done on the Wii. Granted, the DS was also around at the time too, which could kind of emulate this. So I guess the Wii U just can't win. But this minigame was essentially perfect. My only real critique is that it was too short, which in a sense is a backhanded compliment. I would have liked to see even more levels, and I think the potential for additional epic boss fights was certainly there, but ultimately, this was a fantastic minigame. And next up, we've got Luigi's Ghost Mansion, the second multiplayer offering, and once again, we're asked to play a game of tag. And I guess you could argue that it's better described as hide and seek, but come on, at the end of the day, that's just sneaky tag. But I will admit, the changes implemented to make this game feel unique were incredible. Here's a quick setup. One player is a ghost and the other is Luigi. To win, the ghost must tag Luigi 3 times, or Luigi must shine his flashlight on the ghost until its health is depleted. Each player plays on a different screen, and what separates this from a game like Mario Chase is that the ghost is completely invisible from Luigi's perspective. So how is Luigi able to defend himself? Well, the Wiimote controller will actually begin to vibrate whenever the ghost is nearby, and the vibration intensity ramps up the closer the ghost gets. So you can imagine the tension of feeling your controller vibrate like crazy, knowing the ghost is right next to you, but with no idea what direction the attack is coming from. And as the ghost, it's so fun to just mess with the other player, lurk in their general vicinity with no intention of actually going in for the kill, stressing out your opponent, making them as paranoid as possible. It's all about the mind games. But an extra layer of randomness is brought about when sudden flashes of lightning pop through the windows. If the ghost is in a poor position when a flash comes through, they'll be left completely visible for a split second. As the ghost, every time I was accidentally revealed, a burst of laughter filled the room for both myself and my wife. It just makes you feel like an idiot trying to sneak up on someone, and then bang, the element of surprise is completely ruined. It's hilarious every time. Sometimes Riley would try to take advantage of this and aggressively move to my last known location, or reposition herself defensively in preparation for my approach. There are also 2 bots that survey the area and can occasionally corner the ghost or just make life a bit more difficult. I thought the game was really well balanced. Video game experience or skill level really didn't play much of a factor at all. But did Luigi's Ghost Mansion show off the Wii U's innovations? Not too much. The only major feature being that one player uses the gamepad as their primary screen, while the other has the TV. But hey, innovations aside, this was a minigame that thoroughly impressed me from beginning to end.
Bingo! Ho 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 ho!
Captain Falcon's Twister Race. Alright, I'ma be real, this one sucks. Not mechanically or anything, it's just so insanely boring and uninspired. It's a single-player racing game, but it's not really a racing game because there are no other racers. It's just you avoiding obstacles, using the gamepad as your steering wheel. It's slow, feels empty, and the music tries its best, but I mean, just look at this. I think a crowd of me's on either side of the track, or heck, an announcer of some kind, would have done wonders just to keep me engaged, and I think if there was any game that would have benefited from some sort of multiplayer feature, it'd be this one. Animal Crossing Sweet Day. Alright, we're back with another multiplayer game, and another fucking game of tag. But hey, let's not judge a book by its cover. I learned my lesson with Luigi's Ghost Mansion. So the question is, does it innovate? Can it turn a simple concept into something unique? Kinda. So this time we can have up to 4 players, 3 of which will be running around a fairly large open map, trying to collect candy and drop them in one of several goals that are scattered across the field. The more candy you pick up at one time, the slower you move until you drop them off at one of the goals. This aspect of the game, not very interesting to me. But what I did find fun was controlling the 2 guards who are it. Because yes, you move each of these characters independently of one another with each of the 2 thumbsticks. This allows you to think a bit more strategically, spread them out to get a better look at the map before honing in and attacking the other player from multiple angles. The music is pretty fun, and the game would probably be a lot more enjoyable and chaotic with more than just 2 players, but that's pretty much all I have to say on this one. Once again, the only real Wii U specific functionality is that you use the dual screens for gameplay. This game honestly wasn't that bad, and I just have to assume that if we'd had a full party, it would have been elevated to the next level. But I guess we'll never know. Next we have Balloon Trip Breeze, and this is a throwback reference to the popular NES title, Balloon Fight. Here they've turned it into a side-scrolling Flappy Bird style of game that really reflected the preferences of that time period, as mobile and tablet games were really taken off in the early 2010s. But here, you use the gamepad stylus to change directions of the wind and steer your Mii through various obstacles while also racking up a high score by collecting the various balloons. Collect enough balloons in a row and they'll upgrade to provide even more points. Miss one and they reset themselves back to level 1. Obstacles like giant fish, floating spike balls, and some very aggressive pigeons will try to pop your balloons and halt your progress. In concept, this is a fine minigame, but there's one aspect that I did not think worked at all, and that's using your stylus to destroy upcoming obstacles. This all sounds well and good, but in order to do this, you have to quickly look away from the TV and down at the gamepad in order to accurately smash these obstacles. This, in and of itself, causes some difficulties as your character obviously continues to move as you look up and down from the TV to the gamepad. It's very disorienting. But to make matters worse, the screen on the gamepad is so zoomed in, it's nearly impossible to see upcoming obstacles until they're right in your face. Perhaps this is intentional to add a degree of challenge, but once the obstacles started adding up, it turns into a feeling of frustration. It gets to the point that it's too risky to even attempt and sucks some of the fun out of the game. I will give it some credit for using the Wii U stylus, as I feel like that was just generally underutilized in the grand scheme of the Wii U's library. But after 2 to 3 runs, I was good to go. The Legend of Zelda Battle Quest. Surely Nintendo would go all out for this one, and you'd be correct in assuming so, because featured throughout is a full-length campaign, varied enemy types and boss battles, even a story despite it being very paper-thin, is all there. And guess what? We aren't playing a game of tag this time. Instead, we've got a co-op on-rails shooter. One player is armed with a bow and uses the gamepad motion controls to aim, while the other is armed with a sword and shield, using the Wiimote to swing like a goddamn maniac. And yeah, it's a good time. One aspect that the game leans heavily into is that each player has a healthy reliance on the other. There are enemies that are best dealt with from range with the bow, while the sword user takes on the brunt of the enemy ground forces, each player covering for the other's weaknesses. During boss encounters, the sword user may be asked to parry attacks, and the archer is given a dodge ability. Heart containers are hidden throughout the map or carried by birds overhead that can come in very clutch when you're in a tough situation. The motion controls worked very nicely, music was spot on, and the visuals were bright and colorful with a fun art direction akin to Yoshi's Crafted World. You can play this single player as the bow or sword user, but it's not quite the same. This was definitely the most ambitious and high quality minigame we'd played up to this point, and it had me logging several hours outside of recording for this video. Next we had Yoshi's Fruit Cart, which had a really fun and outside-the-box concept that was really refreshing in this lineup. So the goal here is to draw a path on the gamepad for Yoshi to follow. The objective? To collect all the fruit and exit through the door without running into any obstacles or missing any food. What makes this challenging is that the plates of food are completely invisible on the player's gamepad screen. This means the player must carefully examine the environment, compare the positions of the food to the different patterns you can see on the floor or obstacles that may be placed throughout. And it should be noted, there is no time limit, so you can analyze as much as you want before committing to a route. Things do get wild once they start throwing in moving objects. Now you have to account for timing on top of everything else. It does require a bit of patience, and I could see some people getting bored, but it really feels good when you take the time to get everything just right and are rewarded with a flawless run. This may not be the flashiest game on the list, but I give it major points for creativity, and it proved to be very addicting. Alright, it's Pikmin's turn with Pikmin Adventure. Now understand, Pikmin is a franchise I know very little about, so let's see what they've got, shall we? Alright, we've got another co-op game to throw into the mix, and this one allows one player to be a space explorer while the other plays as... Oh god, what is that? The game is level-based and consists of throwing your Pikmin on various creatures and obstacles in your way. Your victims will drop bright orange nectar, which you can collect to level up. Your Pikmin will grow into stronger versions of themselves to make subsequent battles a bit easier. Player 2 operates around the same mechanic, leveling up separately from Player 1 and their army of Pikmin. And I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but the result of this was Riley and I fighting each other for every bit of nectar that dropped on the field. Apparently, we shared a paper-thin alliance, and the game devolved from playing the objective to battling one another for all that sweet, sweet nectar. But that aside, I felt like Player 2's role in all of this was a bit odd or lackluster. I figured we'd both get to play as separate space explorers, but no. Player 2 is just an average Pikmin. No special abilities or mechanics to note. You just run around and punch stuff. I imagine this was necessary since Player 2 was stuck using the Wiimote instead of the gamepad, but perhaps plugging in the nunchuck could have solved this? Hard to say. It's also hard to say what the story was in all of this, because Riley and I were so busy arguing over nectar that we never paid attention. We just slaughtered whatever appeared on the screen, so story be damned, I guess. But that's not all. There's also a separate battle mode to this game. Here, it's a 1v race to collect, you guessed it, candy. Wait, candy? Wait, what happened to the nectar? Okay, I don't know why they changed it to candy when nectar was all the rage in the co-op missions. I already hate this. So destroying blocks and enemies will provide you with this precious candy. You can also damage the enemy player to make them drop their stash. And wouldn't you know it, while I mostly played the objective, Riley only ever attacked me the entire game. I'm minding my own business, following the rules, then blam, here comes Riley in her fucked up looking Pikmin outfit, slapping the shit out of me, trying to shake me down for all my candy. Well, it proved to be a fairly successful strategy, so I guess I can't talk too much. Ultimately, this was a game full of chaos and mayhem, of which neither of us came out on top. We ended in a draw. So next up is Octopus Dance, themed from the famous Game & Watch franchise, and I never played the Game & Watch, but I can all but guarantee you it had nothing to do with dancing. Interesting choice. But before we get into gameplay, I gotta come clean about something. So when I'm recording footage on my Elgato, there's like a 0.5 second delay in the audio, okay? Now this is a very minor inconvenience that has never really affected my gameplay up to this point, so I've never really taken the time to troubleshoot or try to fix it. But with Octopus Dance being a rhythm game, you can imagine it's pretty important to hear the music on beat. So if my gameplay is not the best, understand it's not just because I don't have rhythm, it's not just because I'm some white dude, it's the Elgato's fault, all right? Blame the recording hardware. All right, thank you. PSA over. So Octopus Dance is sort of like Simon Says, in the sense that you have to copy the moves of your computer counterpart. You use the twin thumbsticks to control your Mii's arms, tilt the gamepad to lean side to side, and fling the gamepad forward in order to jump. After each round, the computer will flip your character on either the gamepad screen or the TV screen, forcing you to change which display you're looking at in the middle of gameplay. It's easiest to copy the computer's moves from the rear view, so you want to look at whatever screen that has you facing away from the camera. After I recorded some subpar footage for this video, I then played for a few rounds on my living room TV, you know, with a proper audio setup, and I gotta say, it was pretty fun. The beat will speed up, the computer will delay their movements just to mess with you, and hazards will appear like this octopus shooting ink onto the screen. thought the motion controls implemented in this one were fun and accurate, and I grew up with games like Bop It or Simon, so this was right up my alley. Not bad. So we finally made it, the so-called precipice of Nintendo Land in the eyes of many. As I entered the gate, the room swelled with a familiar tune. I could feel the hair rise on the back of my neck, sweat crawl down my brow, electricity at my fingertips. Even the tutorial pushes the idea that this is about to get serious.
Welcome to Metroid Blast, one of the most daring and intense attractions here at Nintendo Land. Metroid Blast caters to the taste of expert players more than any other attraction.
So I think it's about time to lock in, don our power suits, and take the fight to the space pirate scum. Yeah, it was alright. So first and foremost, there are a couple different game types to choose from. So I started with Assault Mission, which is essentially a single player or co-op campaign. Here the game puts you up against a variety of recognizable enemies from the Metroid franchise like Zoomers, Space Pirates, and even some bosses like Ridley and Kraid. Objectives can vary, but typically you're just trying to survive several waves of enemies. You're also equipped with a handful of Samus's iconic abilities like the Grapple Beam, Morph Ball, and Bombs. The point of controls are nice and tight, and the Power Beam shoots very accurately with a zoom feature as well. And if battles on the ground aren't your style, you can also choose to play in Samus's gunship. Now this is very neat. Great flight controls, a dodge or boost mechanic, bombs, and laser projectiles. I've always felt like some sort of gunship combat had been sorely missing from the Metroid franchise, so this is very refreshing to see here. All in all, I'd say these combat systems are fairly well crafted. Metroid Blast definitely got more effort put into them than something like Captain Falcon's Twister Race, but outside of the general aesthetic, there's not much here that's truly representative of a Metroid game. There are no puzzles, unlocking of abilities, or adequate platforming to speak of, so despite what I've read online, it's really hard for me to consider this a Metroid experience. But if I judge it off its own merits as a standalone minigame, it's still kinda slow. The standard enemies typically move at a crawl, they go down with just a couple of hits and are generally non-threatening. It can get challenging when their numbers are overwhelming, but one or two well-placed bombs will pretty much extinguish any sort of danger. In general, this mode just feels like target practice. Maybe the addition of a time limit would add some tension to the battles, but as it stands, you can pretty much sit back and snipe everything from a distance. Ridley and Kraid do provide some solid difficulty spikes, but they appear rarely, so most levels feel very samey, even if they place you in different style environments. Now, the PvP content is a bit of a different story. The land versus air and ground battle modes have you and your friends duking it out, classic deathmatch style. These modes allow for up to 5 players, but of course, we only had the 2 of us to work with at this time. And the reason I mention this is that I could see this mode being so much more enjoyable with the full party. Not that it wasn't fun with just the 2 of us, but they drop you into a pretty large map with a lot of verticality and obstacles that block your field of vision. So the battlefield ended up feeling pretty empty, and there were fairly large stretches of time spent just trying to find the other player. And once you did make contact, the battle could end pretty quickly, as it only takes 3 hits and you're dead. With the full 5 stack, I have to imagine that the arena would feel more chaotic, with Samus's running all over the place. More room for strategy as well. Do you get aggressive early in the pursuit of some power-ups, try to gain some height for a better view of the field, or maybe you hang back, wait for the battles to get underway, and pick off enemies from a safe distance? These are all assumptions on my part, but the mechanics and systems are all in place for this to be an extremely fun deathmatch mode, provided you have 5 sets of Wiimotes and nunchucks, and 4 friends or family nearby who'd be willing to join in. If you can pull that off, I think you're looking at an 8 or a 9 out of 10 minigame here, but as it stands, I'm gonna have to give it a solid 7 out of 10. And there you have it. all 12 Nintendo-themed minigames featured in Nintendo Land, but we're not quite done yet. Recall how I described the opening portions of Nintendo Land to be barren and lonely? Well, as you continue through the park's attractions, Nintendo Land actually begins to evolve. By achieving high scores or performing specific tasks, you're granted Nintendo Land coins. You can then use these in a separate activity called the Coin Game. I wonder how long they spent coming up with that one. But doing this will unlock decorations, and if you're connected to the internet, various Miis will begin to visit your park as well. Suddenly things are feeling and looking a bit more lively. And the last feature to cap it all off is the attraction tour. Nintendo Land goes above and beyond, looking into the safety of its visitors. That's why they've installed a train to drive through the middle of a crowded park with no regard for human life. Now, this train acts as a hub to organize tournament-style challenges between you and your friends. Once locked in, you're sent on a mini-game gauntlet. Players will be randomly selected to perform in said mini-games, and the player with the highest cumulative score at the end is the winner. Ultimately, there's a really good amount of content here that can appeal to a wide range of ages. Some of the mini-games have more effort put into them than others, and whether or not they show off the Wii U's unique abilities kind of varies as well. But I do think there is a bit of a timeless nature to this title. It's a screenshot in history, that being the Wii U's release, that I feel should be experienced and preserved for generations to come. It's one that I will personally revisit down the line, be it with family or friends, just to relive the days of old, an ancient era in which the Wii U's roamed the earth. That is until they were tragically wiped out when a meteor pierced our atmosphere and brought about the Earth's untimely destruction. Thanks for watching.